streaming service Netflix's royal drama The Crown was accused of making up a hurtful libel of the new king, Charles III, by suggesting that he plotted to overthrow the Queen while still in the role of Prince of Wales. The new monarch's portrayal as a disloyal schemer was deemed false, unfair, and deeply wounding by his friends, who subsequently asked people to stop watching the popular Netflix drama. The new series, which will premiere next month, depicts Charles's strange attempt to force his mother's abdication by persuading Prime Minister John Major. However, Sir John told the meeting never happened and called the scene a barrel load of malicious nonsense, the Daily Mail reported. All the dialogue is absolutely made up, one of the sources stated. All the one-to-one conversations you see on screen are utter fiction, and some scenes have been entirely created for dramatic and commercial purposes with little regard for the truth. People should be boycotting it. The death of the Queen only 5 weeks ago, according to some accounts, makes this tragedy all the more tragic. The stage for the opening episode of the forthcoming 5th season, which is set in 1991. The authors of The Crown imply that Charles thought his mother, who was 65 at the time, was making the same error as Queen Victoria by refusing to make way for a younger heir. Critics, however, argue that Charles knew full well that abdication was out of the question and would bring the monarchy into disrepute. Last year, politicians and royal experts backed a Mail on Sunday campaign to demand Netflix put a disclaimer on The Crown, making clear it was presenting fiction as fact. It followed mounting criticism over the distortion of a string of incidents in the last series. The streaming giant has so far refused to add any such message to the start of episodes. Broadcaster Jonathan Dimbleby, a friend of the king, said of the latest fabrication, "The Crown is full of nonsense, but this is nonsense on stilts. The events portrayed here are outlandish and entirely made up," said royal biographer Sally Bedell-Smith. This program is seriously harming how people view history and the royal family. Since the beginning, it has been jam-packed with nasty lies, but this degree of abuse is now unacceptable. In the contentious episode, due to be released on November 9th, Charles is buoyed by a newspaper poll showing support for abdication among 47% of the Queen's subjects. That storyline is based on a genuine poll from 1990, but one with a crucial difference. In the real one, 47% said the Queen should hand over the throne at some stage in the future. The Prince, played by Dominic West, is shown actively briefing against the Queen, who he believes is too old and too out of touch. Such is his determination to draw the Prime Minister into his conspiracy that he is shown cutting short a holiday with Princess Diana and William and Harry to race back to London. Summoning Mr. Major, played by Trainspotting star Johnny Lee Miller, to a private meeting, he asks him to keep their discussion secret. In their exchange, Charles hints that the monarchy should follow the lead of the Conservative Party, which a year earlier had ousted Mrs. Thatcher in favor of the younger Major. He says, "What makes the Conservative Party the successful electoral force that it is? Its instinct for renewal and its willingness to make way for someone younger." He draws a parallel between himself and his great-great-grandfather, Edward VII, the son of Queen Victoria, who was Prince of Wales for almost 60 years. Charles is depicted as saying, "It was said that Queen Victoria had no confidence in him, thought him dangerous, free-thinking. He longed to be given responsibilities, but his mother refused. Even forbade him from seeing state papers. Yet when his time came, he proved his doubters wrong, and his dynamism, his intellect, his popular appeal made his reign a triumph." When Mr. Major asks what he is driving at, Charles replies, "I am saying what a pity it was, what a waste that his voice, his presence, his vision, wasn't incorporated earlier. It would have been so good for everybody." In the episode, entitled Queen Victoria Syndrome, Charles tells Mr. Major that if he joins the Queen at an upcoming ball at Balmoral, he will be able to judge for himself whether this institution that we all care about so deeply is in safe hands. Sir Malcolm Rifkind, Foreign Secretary under Mr. Major, said the implication that the Prince was pressing the PM to encourage the Queen to make way for him was pathetic and absurd, adding, "At the time, the Queen was in her 60s, younger than the King is today. It's pure fantasy, which is what we have come to expect from this particular program." David Mellor, who also served in Mr. Major's government, called the episode bunkum. He added, To conspire with the heir to the throne to try to force a monarch he had sworn to serve to stand down is simply not something Major would ever have contemplated. No one in their right mind would have suggested it, and no one as sensible as Charles would ever have imagined that this was possible or desirable. Later in the episode, Charles talks to Mr. Major about the Queen wanting taxpayers' money to repair the Royal Yacht Britannia. He tells the PM, "Sometimes these old things are too costly to keep repairing." I'll leave you with that thought. Given that Sir John is believed to have been close to the late Queen, some of the Crown stories are likely to be quite upsetting to him. In one scenario, he calls the older royals dangerously deluded and out of touch, and the youth royals feckless, entitled, and lost when speaking privately with his wife Norma. However, a spokeswoman for the Majors asserted that their viewpoint has never been represented in the screenplay, and will never be.